Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Marketing Blender Show. I am Dacia, and this week's topic is, should you talk about your faith in your marketing? Ooh, let's go. I don't know if you just got excited or if you just got uncomfortable or if you're like, peace out, I don't want to talk about this, but it is an interesting topic. And so what I want to do today is I want to talk about what is faith-based marketing. I also want to take you through some data, just numbers, and I will post all of the links in the episode description below. And then I'm going to walk you through some considerations and also my personal experience, as well as some experiences that some friends have had, just to better inform you about your options, and hopefully so that you can create a personal point of view and a personal framework about how to approach this. So first things first, what is faith-based marketing? Well, there's basically a range. So first of all, we're going to assume this is not marketing for a church or for a specific religious organization. This is marketing for either a nonprofit or a for-profit business, separate from any specific and formal affiliations with any type of religion. So there's a range. One is communicating purpose-driven or faith-aligned values in your marketing, and even potentially mentioning why and where the foundation is coming from, all the way over to being extremely specific about exactly what religion you're aligned with and exactly why you're wanting to talk about it and whether or not it is in the forefront. But the point being is we are still talking about traditional marketing and its ability to grow your revenue and your influence and help your organization thrive. So what role should and can it play in there, right? So I'm going to kind of chase a few squirrels, but on that note, we're talking about marketing is meant to increase your revenue, your reputation, and your resilience, right? So we are maintaining marketing inside of that traditional definition. Now, what role is faith going to play for you? Well, it's really about the positioning of your brand and what you stand for. It's also about values alignment with your different target markets. And especially when we're talking about faith or purpose-driven marketing, we are talking about alignment across all stakeholders. For some of you, it might be alignment or a lack of alignment with investors, with future exit strategies, obviously with different customers and clients, of course, vendor alignment, and also talent attraction and talent alignment. And so when you're talking about this, you've got to think full stakeholder and what role does that play in your business. The second component is that there are always revenue-driven goals, right? Like numeric goals for marketing. And there are often subjective or qualitative goals, right? So some of those qualitative goals might be, I want to be social media famous, but they also might be legacy based, right? So some businesses have components where they are thinking, I want to grow my business because of either what I want to teach the world or what I want to leave to future generations or how I want to treat my team. So oftentimes there are different subjective goals, not right or wrong, but that are complementary to the financial metrics and the actual data-driven metrics that we need to accomplish with marketing. And sometimes for certain people, having a faith impact and sharing your experience, or, depending on what religion you come from, sharing your testimony and sharing what you believe to be light and kindness in the world is actually a goal. And so if it is, clarifying that and making sure that it's documented so it becomes a decision-making framework is super, super critical, because it does impact your brand. It does impact your perception of the market, and it does impact your positioning in regards to you compared to other companies, and even just you compared to the world. So some different ways to think about that. So let's go ahead, and I just want to first talk about some of the data out there, because marketing is always about your audience. It's about who are you talking to and what impact and what progress are you making for them in your sales and in your marketing. So let's go ahead and talk about the audience, because it's the foundation of marketing. So I pulled some stats here. Now, while the numbers are down over the last couple decades, they're still pretty high. 84% of consumers say that they believe in God. So foundationally, marketing is about your target market. It's about the audience that you're talking about. And so when you are thinking about your faith, I always want to make sure that inside of marketing, whether you decide to include faith messaging or whether you don't, you always maintain a servant leadership paradigm. And it's because your marketing is meant to create progress in the buyer's mind. They have a decision, they have a problem, they have a goal they're trying to achieve, especially in business to business marketing. And you are there to help them make progress and to help them figure out if you are the right tool, resource, partner in order to help them solve that problem, make progress, or achieve that goal. So anytime you're embedding values and faith-based language into your marketing, you need to have a perception around what does the audience think and how does this actually serve them. So let's talk about the audience out there. Now, I did not go worldwide. We're going to focus on the US right here. But basically, 81% of people, when asked yes or no, do they believe in God? 81% say yes. Now, again, I'm not saying a specific definition of God or inside a specific religion, but 81% of American adults say that they do believe in God. 64% say even if they don't believe in God, they do believe that God exists and they are convinced that God exists. So a little bit of some different semantics there around like whether they are a follower believer or they just have a conceptual belief. But more than most Americans do believe that some higher power exists and they don't really argue this, right? 54% of people asked say they believe in God as described by the Bible. So food for thought on that. 83% of US adults believe that humans have a soul. And 40% of people in the US say that faith plays a significant decision in their buying decisions, right? So thinking about who your target market is and how they move through the world, if you incorporate faith, does it add hope? Does it add clarity? Does it serve them in some way? And go back to our buyer persona episode if you haven't seen it to really think about the paradigm that I'm describing, because it's your job to know your market and serve them so well. And so the framework in which you apply this is really, really important. Now, real quick, I left on a final stat, and I'm going to drill down a little bit more. I had said that 40% of people say that their faith plays a role or a significant role in their buying decisions. So roughly speaking, we can call these people faith-driven consumers, where they're using it as core decision-making in their purchasing decisions, whether in B2B or B2C. So let's take a look at that. 84% of faith-driven consumers are more likely to do business with a company that is faith-compatible. So not perfectly religiously compatible, but compatible with the values and the faith. And those statistics keep going on. 87% of faith-driven consumers are more likely to do business with a brand that actively promotes Christian values, so values that perfectly align, so very similar though. So we're really talking about core values here and whether or not we go deeper and where do our core values come from. 86% of faith-driven consumers are more likely to do business with a brand that welcomes their Christian values and will favorably choose that brand over competitors that don't mention their values, especially not their Christian or their faith values. So food for thought, if you think about your target market and faith is important or they are faith curious, this can be a really healthy aspect of differentiation and knowing what you stand for. And so I want to use that sentence now to transition in what do you stand for? Because there is a component, if you are deciding whether or not to put faith in your marketing, to tell the truth, right? Because what you say, people will bounce off of, or they will be attracted and magnetized to. And so that values alignment is absolutely interesting and critical, because you can have a tendency to attract people that are more values aligned with you, even if not perfectly religiously aligned with you. And so that can be a benefit depending on how you view the world or what kind of influence. But here's the other thing. If you are a leader who actively talks about their faith in the work environment, or if it is a part of your personal brand or your personal social media, and so this is just a natural aspect of either your work culture or your personal leadership style, you might want to be honest about that. And that can include inside of your employer brand. It can include inside of your website and your positioning. It can include onboarding or sales qualifications. And First and foremost, you need to make sure you know what's legal. I am not here to give you legal advice. There are some clear rules and clear allowances where you're allowed to do this. So I'm talking about servant leadership heart, where you're simply telling the truth about what you believe. Also, we do not use this as a weapon to beat people up, to say I'm better or worse. I am truly talking about walking the walk in faith that believes in love and in kindness and humanity and respect and collaboration and unity, right? And so when I'm saying tell the truth because people will be magnetized to it or bounce off of it, I am being honest, but we don't want to be doing it in a way that is harsh. That is always harmful to your brand. It is always harmful to your positioning. And by the way, it's always harmful to your faith to communicate something ugly, harsh, argumentative, if you will. So just thoughtfulness about walking the walk and how you want to communicate that. But I do find it really beneficial that if you are a place that prays or talks about faith, then it's healthy for people to know what they're being invited into and whether or not that aligns with how they view the world and whether or not that's something that they can handle being around or that they want to be around, right? So there's an authenticity. Now, I could not find the study. Again, I will post it down there, so I'm not going to give you specific numbers, but there has been some research that does suggest that companies that communicate their faith, not religious affiliation, but that communicate their faith and that they're faith-based, actually builds trust in the marketplace and in the audience, because people actually understand that how you act and the level of accountability you're willing to have out there, whether they agree with you or not, is actually something that supersedes your emotions or supersedes your business decisions. So there has been some research that suggests that even if people are not of your specific religion or your specific background, that it can still build significant trust that you are who you say you are and that you will do business ethically in a way that they can believe in, even if they don't believe what you believe. So there can be a trust component if you do this well. Also, depending on your marketplace, if your values aligned, we do know, and we see this subjectively with clients all the time, the louder you are with your core values and what you stand for, and this includes if you decide to put faith in your marketing, you have a tendency to increase referrals, to increase word of mouth, because these are the kind of things that people believe so deeply in that they will share and that they will feel relief or they will feel excitement about promoting that, because what your business stands for goes beyond what they bought from you. So it can, as long as you know that market and you know the environment that you're in and that you are okay with both the good and the bad that comes along, because you are going to be drawing a line in the sand for some people. I am not trying to scare you away from this. I'm going to share my personal experiences with you in just a moment. But again, just giving you some considerations. Also, back to the truth component, there's an aspect that people of faith, of all faiths, oftentimes, when healthy, function from a place of foundational kindness and foundational ethics. So that is something healthy to communicate, especially if you're not being abrasive, but instead being welcoming and simply open and authentic to where you come from, why you make the decisions that you make, and why you're rooted, how you are rooted. People oftentimes don't hate differences. They embrace them as long as you're not trying to create a chasm between you and other people, but instead building a bridge simply of honesty, and then people understand where that comes from. Okay. Final couple different things. I already mentioned these, but I'm just going to rattle them off just to hold myself accountable. There is a level of accountability. If you communicate faith in your marketing, you better be good. Being good is good for business, but there is a higher level of accountability. So all of us have seen horrible experiences where there's a car or a driver driving like an insane person or flicking someone off or doing whatever in traffic, and then they pass you by and you see some sort of religious bumper sticker. None of us love that hypocrisy, and that doubles down on your business. So if you are going to communicate to the world that you do have a standard that goes far beyond profit and loss and what success you're trying to achieve for yourself and your customers, then you really, really better build those core values into decision-making criteria, because you will be held to a higher level of accountability, and you need to be willing to really step into that and own that and think, wow, this is an opportunity to shine and to show what real faith and real action and faith in the marketplace is actually supposed to look like instead of being divisive. So huge opportunity, but a higher level of accountability that you do need to build into your culture and into everything that you deliver. It can foster deeper culture. You can do things like pray in the marketplace as long as it is not required, and you need to know the laws around this. You can invite people into this, but you cannot require people to pray with you. But it can be an invitation. It can be a comfort for some people. There are different businesses out there, like marketplace chaplains, for instance, where legally you can have a chaplain on premise in order to talk to people about their emotional and spiritual struggles and to really help them through things that you as a boss or a manager or a leader in your company wouldn't necessarily be able to speak into. So there are different opportunities, and you want to think through, what am I trying to do in my culture? What am I trying to do inside of my team? And again, faith as decision-making criteria. So I'm just trying to give you some examples on how this does play out. One of the things that I would encourage is that I'm a big believer, and you guys, if you've seen my podcast before, I believe work is honorable. I believe that all work can be a vocation that does align with our faith, that does align with our core values, that does align with our mission, our vision, our personal purpose, and our personal place in the world. And that is really what I want for people. And so it can help you communicate the deeper substance of work, especially if you have a faith system where work is honorable and it is a critical component of what it means to be human and what it means to have impact and kindness and love in this world, if you are embodying your work with those core principles. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I do believe marketing specifically can be a Christian vocation as well. So I am a Christian. We are surrounded by people of faith of different religions, which is really exciting. And so then we are able to talk about core values and what aligns us instead of what divides us. And for me, marketing is actually about influence and about serving people and creating pathways of progress for them. And so for me personally, that does embed my faith in my everyday decisions and my everyday actions. And I love helping people, whether Christian or not, whether faith-based or not, believe in their work, believe themselves, and believe in their significance. And so it, for me, helps me have something where I am rooted and can be my best self and my kindest self, and build the kind of culture and the kind of influence that I want for everyone, regardless of their religious background. Are you a CEO of a business-to-business company? Maybe you're a sales leader or a salesperson, or maybe you're in business-to-business marketing. Well, if so, I wrote a book for you, and it's called Corporate Caffeine. Business-to-business marketing is different, but there are certain predictable, fundamental principles that will help you unleash your organizational potential and fill your pipeline sustainably. So you can find my book on Audible, on Amazon, on barnesandnoble.com, or any of your favorite retailers. Hope you enjoy it, and I'd love to hear your feedback. So that leads to my experiences. When I first decided to start openly talking about my faith, I really started on my personal social media. So while yes, my personal social media overlaps because of my personal brand with my business world, with speaking, as well as, the marketing blender itself, I still did keep a little bit of a divide. So publicly, I really only used it in social media. Interesting thing that you need to know so that you can decide whether or not you want to do this. I would put things on social media, whether it's a post, whether it's a video, and I would record it. And you never know when people are going to see that post. And the interesting thing is those conversations frequently will come back to you. I found that believers and non-believers alike would bring those topics up to me and felt a comfort level that they could talk to me about that. And that is surprising. And I do not come from an evangelical background or anything like that, where it's a big, bold, loud aspect of my personality or, my experience base. And so that was really interesting. I did find it gratifying. I had to learn a lot about how to navigate those conversations, but that was good. That was good for my heart. It was good for my perspective. And I've really enjoyed being invited into those conversations, no matter what they believe. And for me personally, as a believer, I'm not there to convince anybody of anything. I'm there to walk in integrity and to love people. And if they're curious about that, then of course I want to share my experiences. So that's just me, but that is important. Eventually I did start bleeding it over. I did ask legal. I have done the research about what to say and what not to say because I want to be respectful of other people. But I did decide, especially in our employer brand, to let people know that I'm a person of faith, that we invite and celebrate all backgrounds and all levels of talent and experience. But I pray in the workplace. I talk about that. I will pray for you. And I want people to simply know that so they can decide for themselves whether they are comfortable. I have also found that most people have been comfortable with this, but I'm very, very, very careful never to make anything mandatory, never to force anything, and to let people know if that's not where they're comfortable. There are no repercussions for not participating or, not wanting to be a part of the things that I do offer. Eventually, we did put it in our brand. Now, it is not primary. I believe that our actions and our voice are louder than where it came from. And so we want to be light to all people and all organizations, and we want to unleash potential and we want to honor work. So I tell the truth about it, but I decided not to lead with that because the goal that I have for my faith and my impact in the world and our company's impact on the world, I want it to be through the decisions that we make and the work we do and our ethics and our standards and our values in action. Now, our core values are posted everywhere and faith is embedded in those, but I lead more with core values because for me personally, I've found that is easier to unify on. And later, when people realize I'm a faith-based leader, or I'm a Christian, nobody's really surprised. They'll think back and go, oh, I see that, or I could see it in your brand, or I understand where you do that. I just didn't recognize it at the beginning. And that for me has been what I was led to prayerfully and how I feel like that serves my community, the world, and my team. So that's my decision. I do have other friends that are much more, say, faith forward in their communication, and for them, again, following, smart legal practices and respectful business postures, they've really thrived with that. And they have doubled down in faith-based communities, found a lot of opportunity to have legacy impact across different things far beyond their business. But that was about full circle, the target market that they serve and who they are best set up to serve because their authentic heart and what they were called to speak to in this world. So, I hope that this helps you. I want to open up conversations that challenge people's hearts, that challenge us all to be united and respectful of one another. And also, for me, most importantly, challenge us to take our work to a whole nother level. Because you guys, when you work with people, whether it's a partner, a vendor, a supplier, a stakeholder, an investor, we are doing life together. We are. And so that means all the complexities of our beliefs, all the complexities of our human hearts, all the complexities of our individual backgrounds are at play. And either we are going to decide to be honest about those and respectful and loving, loving through those things and around those things, or we're just going to pretend that they don't exist, even though they are at play every single day. So I would love to hear your comments. If you have any brands that you think have done a really great job towing this line or really great job respecting and loving people and still being authentic, I would love to hear them. Please post them in the comments or send them to me. I would love to hear your questions. And, I do invite arguments. I would love to hear that. So again, you'll see all the data and the links in the show description below. And thanks, you guys. This is a little bit of a weird topic, but I'm super excited to kind of dive into some additional things that I'm curious about. And I hope that they serve you and that your brand helps to unleash world potential as well as individual potential inside of your organization. Onward and upward.